Imagine living in the world's third largest economy, where the trains run on time, the sushi looks like art, and the robots bow politely. Sounds like a futuristic paradise, right? Wrong. Behind the neon glow and the kawaii mascots lurks a dirty little secret. Nearly 40% of Japanese workers are not in stable, full-time jobs. Yes, 4 out of every 10 salarymen and office ladies are basically disposable human tissue paper, used once, thrown away, and replaced by the next unlucky recruit. But wait, don't click away yet. I know what you're thinking. That's just like everywhere else, right? Not exactly. In most developed countries, insecure jobs are a growing problem. In Japan, they are the system. And here's the kicker. The Japanese government doesn't even bother publishing a proper underemployment statistic. Why? Because if they admitted it, the myth of Japan as a hard-working, middle-class dreamland would collapse faster than a 1 yen coin in your washing machine. So today, we're going to dig deep into the underbelly of Japanese labor. And don't worry, I won't just dump boring statistics on you. We'll talk about dispatch workers who rotate like rental cars, contract employees who never get promoted, and so-called freeters. Basically, adults still working the kind of part-time jobs teenagers quit after high school. By the end of this video, you'll see why calling Japan the land of opportunity is like calling instant noodles a gourmet meal. Buckle up. It's going to be funny, sad, and maybe a little too real. Let's begin with the sacred cow of modern life, the meme. Ah yes, the legendary Japanese salaryman. You've seen him in movies, dramas, maybe even anime. Crisp white shirt, navy suit, briefcase in one hand, a can of Boss coffee in the other. He's the symbol of loyalty, dedication, and the mythical lifetime employment system. The image is so iconic that some foreigners think every Japanese man is basically born in 1985 wearing a tie. But here's the joke. The salaryman is now an endangered species. What really exists today is a strange zoo of insecure workers, making up nearly 40% of the workforce. Forget lifetime employment. These days, most Japanese workers are lucky if they can keep a job for longer than a 2-year mobile phone contract. Let me introduce you to the categories. First, we have the Haken Shane, or dispatch workers. These are people literally rented out by agencies, shuffled from one company to another like human USB sticks. Companies love them because they can fire them faster than deleting spam emails. Then we have the Keiyaku Shane, the contract employees. Their job titles sound official, but don't be fooled. They rarely get bonuses, promotions, or job security. Basically, it's cosplay as a real employee. And of course, the famous freeters. That word sounds cute, right? Like free plus freedom. But in reality, it means adults stuck in part-time convenience store shifts, living paycheck to paycheck and hoping their parents don't kick them out. Imagine being 35, serving fried chicken at Family Mart at 2 in the morning, while the government still insists Japan is a rich country. Meanwhile, the few remaining true salarymen drag themselves home at midnight, collapsing after drinking with the boss, thinking they're superior because at least they're chained to their company full-time. Newsflash, that's like bragging you have the premium seat on the Titanic. The illusion of the salaryman was built on stability. The reality of today is built on insecurity. And if 4 out of 10 workers are disposable, then maybe the whole Japanese economy is running on borrowed time, like an old pachinko machine nobody wants to fix. Let's talk about dispatch workers, the Haken Shane. If you don't know what that means, just imagine this. Instead of owning your employees, Japanese companies now lease them like Toyota Corollas. Yes, you heard me. Human rental cars. The worker doesn't belong to the company. They belong to the dispatch agency. And like a rental car, you don't care if you scratch it up, because you can just return it and get another one tomorrow. Sounds efficient, right? Well, it is, if you're the company. For the worker, it's like living in a permanent probation period. You're never fully trusted, never fully included, and never fully safe. It's like being in a relationship where your partner says, "Don't get too attached, we might break up next month." Here's the comedy of it. Dispatch workers often do the exact same job as the official employees. They sit in the same office, use the same coffee machine, attend the same useless meetings about PowerPoint slide designs, but they don't get the same pay, benefits, or respect. Imagine running the same marathon as everyone else, but being told you can't cross the finish line. That's the life of a Harken worker. And the government? Oh, they love this system. They call it labor flexibility. Sounds sexy, doesn't it? Like a yoga class for the economy. But in reality, it's just corporate cost cutting disguised as policy. Dispatch workers can be fired instantly when the economy dips, like during the Lehman shock or the pandemic. Whole armies of human rentals were returned to the agency parking lot, left to rust while politicians shrugged and said, Shuvenai, it can't be helped. And let's not forget the psychological toll. Dispatch workers often hide their status from friends and family out of shame, because in Japan, your job title isn't just what you do, it's who you are. So when your identity is temporary human, it's like walking around with an expiration date stamped on your forehead. So yes, dispatch workers are efficient for corporations. For humans, though, it's like being downgraded from a person to an office appliance. And guess what? In this system, the coffee machine might actually get more respect. If dispatch workers are rental cars, then contract employees, the Keiyaku chain, are like Airbnb guests who've been staying so long they start watering the plants. They look permanent, they act permanent, but the truth is, they're never really part of the family. The job title itself is deceptive. Contract employee sounds respectable, doesn't it? Like you've signed something official, maybe even with a fancy stamp. But don't be fooled. The contract isn't about security. It's about reminding you that your employment comes with an expiration date, just like milk in the fridge. Here's how it usually works. The company gives you a 1-year contract. After 12 months, they tell you, good job, we'll renew you for another year. And you think, wow, maybe they really like me. But this cycle repeats for years, sometimes decades, and you never get promoted to a real seishain, the sacred full-time employee. It's like dating someone for 10 years who says, sorry, I'm still not ready for marriage. At some point, you realize the problem isn't commitment issues. The problem is that they never planned to marry you in the first place. And let's talk about money. Contract employees often get lower salaries, no bonuses, and little to no benefits. Remember that company trip to Okinawa? Yeah, you're not invited. That pension plan? Not for you. Health insurance perks? Keep dreaming. You're basically cosplaying as a full-time worker while being paid like a part-timer. Of course, companies love this arrangement. They get experienced, loyal workers who cost less and can be replaced at any moment. For the worker, though, it's a lifetime of uncertainty. You're always temporary, no matter how many years you've served. The tragedy, and comedy, is that many contract employees actually perform better than the so-called permanent staff. They work harder, knowing their renewal depends on it. But when promotions roll around, the boss looks at them and says, sorry, you're just a contract. It's like running a restaurant where the part-time chef cooks all the meals, but the full-time chef gets all the Michelin stars. So, yes, contract employees are permanent temps. They live in a twilight zone, not disposable enough to be ignored, but never valuable enough to be secure. And in the end, they're proof that in Japan, even insecurity can be institutionalized. Yeah, let's talk about the most tragically comical group in Japan's insecure labor circus, the freeters. The word comes from free and the German word Arbeiter, meaning worker. Sounds cool, right? Like free spirits chasing their dreams, unchained from boring office jobs. Spoiler alert, it's not cool. It's just adults stuck working teenage jobs forever. Picture this. You're 33 years old, living with your parents, and still earning your living from convenience store shifts, karaoke booth cleaning, or frying tempura in a mall food court. That's the life of a freeter. They were sold the fantasy of freedom in their 20s. Don't tie yourself down, explore your passions, take part-time gigs. But fast forward 10 years, and they realize freedom doesn't pay rent. Freeters became especially common after the 1990s economic crash, when the so-called lost decade turned into a lost generation. Companies stopped hiring fresh graduates into stable jobs, and many young people fell into the freeter trap. Now, decades later, some of those same people are still trapped, except now they're middle-aged with thinning hair, aching backs, and resumes that look like fast food menus. And here's the national irony. Japan's media sometimes glorifies freeters as choosing lifestyle freedom. You'll see glossy magazines calling them independent, non-traditional, even creative. That's like calling a broken elevator a vertical, minimalist lifestyle experience. Let's be honest, most freeters didn't choose this life. It chose them, thanks to an economy that treats young workers like disposable chopsticks. The saddest part? Freeters have no career ladder. There's no promotion from cashier to CEO. You can master the art of pouring coffee at a cafe, but it won't get you healthcare, pensions, or marriage prospects. Even banks hesitate to give them credit cards because, hey, why would you trust someone whose income depends on whether Lawson needs extra staff this month? And socially, it's humiliating. In Japan, your job title defines your status. So when your answer to what do you do is part-time at McDonald's, society looks at you like you're still a high schooler who hasn't grown up, even if you're 39. So yes, the freeters are not free. They're just stuck in limbo, adult bodies with teenage paychecks. If the dispatch workers are rental cars and contract employees are Airbnbs, then freeters are like second-hand bicycles. Cheap, unstable, and always left out in the rain. Here's the fun part. Japan doesn't even publish an underemployment statistic the way other developed countries do. Why? Because the number would be so embarrassing that it might cause the entire cool Japan PR machine to short circuit. Let's do some quick math. Nearly 40% of Japanese workers are on insecure contracts. Dispatch, contract employees, freeters, you name it. Now, if that isn't underemployment, what is? Because underemployment isn't just about being jobless. It's about having a job that doesn't use your skills, doesn't pay a living wage, and doesn't build a future. By that definition, Japan's real underemployment rate is not 5%, not 10%, but probably north of 40%. Yes, 4 out of every 10 workers are essentially overqualified part-timers in neckties. Now, compare this to Singapore. The Singaporean government actually admits underemployment exists. About 4% of college graduates. 4%. And you know what? They even run programs to fix it. Career support, reskilling initiatives, grants to help workers move into industries that actually need people. In Japan, the only initiative is telling workers to gamen, endure quietly, while corporations enjoy their cheap, disposable labor force. Let's put this in perspective. Imagine you have 2 cars. One is Singapore, a brand new Lexus with regular maintenance and a clear service record. The other is Japan, a 30-year-old Toyota with duct tape on the bumper, no insurance, and the mechanic refuses to admit the engine is broken. Which one are you betting on for the next decade? Exactly. And here's the killer twist. Singapore has fewer natural resources, a smaller population, and no anime mascot tourism campaigns. Yet it manages to acknowledge its labor problems and correct them. Japan, meanwhile, prefers to export Hello Kitty, while ignoring the fact that half its young workers are living paycheck to paycheck. So the numbers tell the story. Japan's underemployment rate is a silent crisis, deliberately hidden. Singapore's rate is acknowledged, managed, and reduced. One country faces reality, the other plays dress up with PowerPoint slides. And that, my friends, is the real reason why Tokyo feels stuck in 1995 while Singapore keeps moving forward. Let's stop pretending this is just a worker issue. Insecure labor isn't just bad for the individual, it's poison for the entire Japanese economy. Think about it. When 4 out of every 10 workers are insecure, wages stay low, consumption stays weak, and the so-called third largest economy in the world starts to look more like a tired pachinko hall running on flickering lights. Look at wages. Japan's average annual income has been flat since the 1990s. Meanwhile, Korea, Singapore, even parts of Eastern Europe have been catching up and overtaking. Why? Because insecure workers don't have bargaining power. If you're a dispatch worker or a freeter, you can't demand a raise. You're too busy hoping your contract gets renewed. It's like trying to negotiate rent with your landlord when you're squatting illegally. Good luck with that. And what about spending? Stable workers buy houses, cars, maybe even raise families. Insecure workers? They rent tiny apartments, eat convenience store pasta, and delay marriage until, well, never. No surprise, Japan's birth rate is collapsing. You can't start a family when you don't know if you'll even have a job next April. Meanwhile, corporations celebrate short-term profits, but in the long run, they're digging their own grave. A workforce that can't afford to spend is a market that can't grow. It's like owning a department store where your own employees are too poor to shop there. Eventually, the shelves stay full and the lights go out. Now, contrast this with countries like Singapore. By investing in skills training and career progression, they actually create workers who can spend, invest, and innovate. Japan, it clings to insecure labor because it's cheap. But cheap labor produces a cheap future, and that's exactly what Japan is facing now. A slow motion economic decline that no amount of anime exports or sushi commercials can disguise. So, yes, insecure jobs keep costs low for companies in the short run, but in the long run, they keep the entire nation locked in a cycle of stagnation. Japan's economy isn't dying because people don't work hard. It's dying because 40% of them are working hard in jobs that lead absolutely nowhere. And if you ask me, that's not just underemployment, that's national self-sabotage.